All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thank you for being here, and welcome to this meeting of the Nevada Youth Legislature. Before we get started, I will ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Youth Legislator Allen,
Present.
Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores, Youth Legislator Breeden,
Absent.
Youth Legislator Kane,
Present.
Youth Legislator Chang,
Present.
Youth Legislator Chen,
Present.
Youth Legislator Chong, Vice Chair Cohen, Youth Legislator Conyers,
Absent.
Youth Legislator Coughlin,
Present.
Youth Legislator McCarthy,
Present.
Youth Legislator Wen,
Present.
Youth Legislator Obstgarten,
Present.
Youth Legislator Park, Youth Legislator Riganti. Oh, sorry, is Youth Legislator Park?
Present.
Youth Legislator Riganti,
Present.
Youth Legislator Rosas,
Present.
Youth Legislator Villatoro,
She'll be here late.
Youth Legislator Walsh,
Present.
Youth Legislator Wolf,
Present.
Chair Rios.
Present. All right, thank you, Madam Secretary. Now we'll cover some housekeeping reminders for the youth legislators and anyone providing testimony today. Please remember to turn the microphone on and identify yourself for the record each time you speak. Turn the microphone off when you have finished speaking. It is important to turn off your cell phones or other electronic devices. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and uploaded to the legislative website. Keep this in mind as we discuss the business of the Nevada Youth Legislature. For members of the public attending in person, please sign in at the table near the entrance at each location. Please sign in even if you do not plan to provide public comment. Finally, all materials received prior to the meeting have been uploaded to the NYL's meeting page. Our next agenda item is public comment. Public comment may be provided in several different ways, all of which are listed on the agenda. At this time, if anyone would like to provide public comment, please remember to identify yourself for the record. To ensure that everyone has an opportunity to speak, I would like to ask anyone speaking during public comment to keep their comments to no more than 3 minutes and to try to avoid repeating comments that have been made by a previous speaker. Remember that there will be another period for public comment at the end of this meeting. Is there anyone wishing to testify in Las Vegas? Seeing none, is there anyone wishing to testify in Carson City? Seeing none. Audio, visual, and hearings unit, is there anyone on the line to make public comment?
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers on the line to provide public comment.
Thank you. It appears we do not have anyone who is prepared to provide public comment at this time, so we will move on to the next portion of this meeting. Before we begin our discussion about the bill draft request, we need to address agenda item 3, which is approval of the minutes from the meeting on November 20th, 2024. Copies of the meeting minutes have been provided to you. I will now accept a motion to approve the minutes. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you. Is that Youth Legislator Allen?
Yes.
Thank you. Youth Legislator Allen has moved for approval of the minutes of our meeting held on November 20th, 2024. Is there a second to the motion?
Seconded. Youth Legislator Chang.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Chang. Is there any discussion on the motion or regarding the minutes? I'll now take a vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, please signify by saying yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please signify by saying no. The motion carries unanimously and the minutes are approved. We will now move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is the discussion of our bill draft request, BDR 34-592, which was prepared by the Legal Division of the LCB. David Noss from the Legal Division is here to help us with the discussion and answer any questions. Mr. Noss, would you please provide us with a brief summary of what is included in the bill draft?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. David Noss, LCB Legal, for the record. Just as a reminder, as nonpartisan staff, I can either advocate for or oppose any piece of legislation. This is the draft that Legal Division has created following last meeting where the bill draft request was approved. So going through the draft, we start at the top with a summary. This is a quick one-sentence explanation of what the bill does. This is what is posted on the website to help people navigate all the various bills throughout the session. Then we have the fiscal effect. Local government may have fiscal impact. This is because the schools will be required to administer this new policy, and effect on state is yes, because the Department of Education, which is a state agency, will have to adopt the policy. Next, we have the title. This is a couple sentence short explanation of what the bill does. I will not go through this exactly because we'll be getting into the substance of the bill shortly. After the title is the digest. This is a explanation of the legal effect of the bill. I will also not go through this because we're getting into the meat of the bill next, and that is the next part of the bill. First, we have the enacting clause. This is required by the Constitution to state that the people of the state of Nevada are enacting a new law. So first we have section 1. This is a directory language to tell the legal division after session, if the bill is enrolled, where to put the new language that is found in sections 2 and 3. And the new language will go in chapter 392, which is the pupils chapter of the title on education. Section 2 is the main substance of the bill. Requires the Department of Education to adopt an evidence-based policy concerning notification of the parent or legal guardian of a pupil who exhibits signs and behavior that are consistent with substance use or nicotine use. It then sets forward the minimum requirements of the policy to include that administrator ask a pupil if there is someone else that they wish to contact his or her parents to begin this process.
David, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. There were supposed to be print copies in your folders. We realized that there are not, so give us a second and we'll get everybody a copy of that. As for the Vegas location, I'm not sure if you guys have the copies, but for Carson, we're working on getting them to you.
Great, thank you. Subsection 2, next.
Excuse me.
Mr. We're going to take a brief recess so that we can provide the drafts of the bill.
Great.
Sorry about that, guys. We're working on
All right, we're going to come back to order to continue. So Mr. Nas, if you could continue with your explanation of the BDR, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. David Noss again, LCB Legal for the record. Apologize for that on behalf of LCB staff. For our oversight there, not getting that to you guys. So I'll begin basically from where I left off with the substance of the bill. Everything before this is required by the Constitution in some cases, but are still just explanations or information to help people readily identify what's going on with the bill, with so many, the thousands of bills that go through session every other year. So Section 1 is directory language for if the bill is enrolled. Enrolled means passed both houses and signed by the governor. And it explains where this new language is going to go. It is going to go in Chapter 392, which is the chapter relating to pupils within the title relating to education. So Section 1 is the main meat of the bill. It provides that the Department of Education shall adopt an evidence-based policy concerning the notification of the parent or legal guardian of a pupil who exhibits signs and behavior that are consistent with substance use or nicotine use. It then sets forth the minimum requirements of this policy for a pupil to be able to ask that someone other than the administrator or witnessing staff member be present at the meeting and to contact his or her parents. For a meeting to be set up with the pupil, his or her parents, the witnessing staff member, administrator, and if the pupil has chosen a person to accompany him or her as well. Section C is a mental health and substance abuse screening questionnaire to be completed by the witnessing staff member and the parent or legal guardian of the pupil. Also required that questionnaire be returned to the school before the meeting. And then the first meeting to discuss the signs and behavior witnessed, the questionnaire, to provide resources and recommendations to the parent or legal guardian, and if during this meeting it is determined that it is appropriate, for a second meeting to be scheduled to discuss the progress of the pupil and additional resources that may be available. Lastly, the policy must include a report be filed with the school, essentially summarizing what was just explained above and how the meetings went and what the signs and behavior were that began this process, and the questionnaire. Subsection 2 of Section 2 requires schools to follow certain things. First and foremost, the policy, for them to provide the pupils with the policy and to maintain the report that we just discussed. Subsection 3 is the reporting requirement that if during a meeting is determined that the pupil is using substance or nicotine and the parent or legal guardian is providing access to that substance or nicotine, that a report shall be filed with law enforcement following the mandated reporting system. Moving on to Section 3. At the end of subsection 2, we have some definitions. Moving on to Section 3, is the requirement for the Department of Education to collect data on this policy, and for the legislature or any committee thereof to have the authority to request that data from the department or the reports from the individual schools. Section 4 is to ensure that definitions used in the section of law that these new sections will go in apply to these new sections. So it's just a conforming change to make sure that current definitions continue to have their intended use throughout the new sections. Section 5 is once again directory language explaining that the following language will be added to Chapter 394. 394 is the chapter dealing with private schools. So sections 2 and 3 dealt with public schools. Section 5 will deal with private schools. Section 5 largely follows Section 2, and that the private school shall comply with the policy adopted by the Department of Education, provide the policy to its students, and maintain a report in the same way that public schools are required to. It also provides that employees of a private school are required to file a report with law enforcement according to mandated reporting procedure if the legal or parent guardian is providing access to the substance or nicotine, and further provides definitions. Section 6, also similarly to Section 5, requires the department to collect the data from private schools and for the legislature to request that data and to request from private schools the reports. Section 7 requires the Department of Education to provide to the legislature its policy after it is adopted and provides a date by which the Department of Education is required to adopt the policy, that date being July 1st, 2026. Section 8 relates to the fiscal impact that this may have on local governments. And then Section 9 is the effective date. And so if this bill is enrolled, it will immediately go into effect. That is the NYL's BDR. At this stage, I'm free for any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nas, for that explanation. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Nas or any comments they'd like to make regarding the bill draft? If so, please state your name for the record. Once again, if you have any questions or comments.
Youth Legislator McCarthy for the
Go ahead.
record. I was just wondering about Section 2, letter C, which is talking about the questionnaire to screen for mental health. In this, it says that that's going to go to the witnessing staff member and parent or legal guardian. Are those two people going to be responsible for giving the questionnaire to the child, or should the child just be receiving the questionnaire? Because the way it's worded makes it sound like it's just going to the staff member and parent.
Mr. Chair, if it's all right, I will answer that question.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. David Noss, LCB Legal for the record. So yes, the questionnaire is going to the staff member and the parents or legal guardians for them to complete. It is not going to the people. The understanding of the request was for that to happen. If that was incorrect understanding, a misunderstanding on our part, and the questionnaire is to go to the people, we can certainly make that change.
Thank you. Youth Legislator McCarthy, is that change you want to make?
Do we vote on that if we want to make it?
Yes, we'll add it as an amendment, correct? Yes.
I think yes, because the purpose was to comply with best practices that were mentioned, and the bill in Washington that those can be based off of gives the questionnaire to the student. So yeah.
Okay, so we will add an amendment to section, we said section 2, letter C, is that correct? Yep, okay.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, just for clarity of the record,
Yes.
it's section 2,
Go ahead.
thank you. It is section 2, subsection 1, paragraph C that we would be amending.
Thank you, Mr. Noss. Appreciate that clarification. All right. Any other discussion or questions or comments on the bill draft at this time?
Youth Legislator Chang for the record.
Go ahead.
So in section 2, subsection 4, paragraph A, it uses alternative nicotine products with the meaning ascribed to it in NRS 202-2485. Under 202-2485, it says that alternative nicotine product means any non-combustible product containing nicotine that is intended for human consumption, whether chewed, absorbed, dissolved, or ingested by any other means. This term does not include a vapor product. So my question is, are we not including vapes in the bill or under the scope of the bill?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Nas.
Thank you. David Noss, LCB Legal, for the record. Yes, the bill as currently structured does not include vapor products. Once again, if that is the desire of the youth legislature, we can change that.
Thank you. Would you like to propose an amendment to include vapor products in the bill? Would anyone like to propose to include that?
I propose to include that. Youth Legislator Kathleen McCarthy for the record.
Thank you, Youth Legislator McCarthy. And where would that amendment go, Mr. Nas?
We would include that within the definition for nicotine. That would be section 2, subsection 4, paragraph B. So it would read, nicotine means cigarettes, cigars, chewing or pipe tobacco, vapor products, or alternative nicotine products.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments or proposals at this time?
Youth Legislator Nguyen for
Go
the
ahead.
record. Section 2, subsection 2, paragraph C, it states that a public school shall maintain a report filed pursuant to paragraph F of subsection 1 for at least 4 years after the date on which the report was filed. Could you explain what it means to maintain a report for 4 years and what would happen to the report after these 4 years?
Thank you, David Noss.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. David Noss, LCB Legal, for the record. It means that they are to keep it within their possession and have it be accessible, presumably for the legislature if it requests to see such reports. At the end of 4 years, it would be destroyed. Correction.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nas.
One moment of clarity, Mr. Chair. That is the minimum that public schools must keep it. So after 4 years, it could be destroyed by the public school. They could also maintain it for longer. There is no specific requirement here for destruction of the reports within any time frame.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Mr. Nas. We appreciate it. Are there any other questions, comments, or proposals for the bill at this time?
Youth Legislator Reganti for the record. I think we should consider amending the bill and adding in that after graduation, after a certain amount of time, that they do destroy that record. If anyone else agrees with that.
I second the motion, or agree with the idea that we should mandate the destruction of the record after a certain point, just so it isn't out there for forever.
All right. If I heard correctly, Legislator Reganti, the amendment was to, just so we can put a timestamp on it, once the student graduates, the record would be destroyed.
Yes, that's
Is that
what
the
I'm.
proposal?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any questions about the amendment proposal? All right. Go ahead, Senator Weiner.
Thank you, Chair Rios. A question for clarification, Mr. Noss. When we're looking at this report, I'm a little confused based on questions the youth legislators are asking. These reports are for statistical purposes only, as I recall through the conversation through the months. So this would be data collection that the different schools would provide to DOE, Department of Education. Student names. It would be information only, statistical information only. So the relevance to an individual would not be included in this because names are not included, it's just numbers. Am I correct? And whatever else the report might require, numbers and what kind of use and so on. But from my understanding, it was like collective information, statistical data related, not to identify individuals. Am I off on this one?
Thank you, Senator Weiner. The reports at the school level do contain personal identifying information of students because it is a report of how the policy worked, what was witnessed, how the meetings went, and a copy of the questionnaire. Then the reports are given to DOE to mine them for data, and for then the data to be provided to the legislature. Once again, if there was a misunderstanding, that certainly can be amended. But currently in the bill, that is how it works.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. So Youth Legislator Briganti, are we going to continue with your amendment just to clarify with that new information in mind?
Yes, I'd like to continue with the amendment.
All right.
Youth Legislator McCarthy, I have a question about what that amendment would mean for Mr. Noss. Let's say a report was made in a student's senior year, and because they're about to graduate, it is destroyed. Would that report never make it to DOE to be added into the statistical data on how many reports have been made in X number of years?
Thank you. That's a great question, and that would be a clarification back to you all for myself for what exactly the amendment is. Because two things were mentioned, that the reports be destroyed upon graduation of the pupil or after a certain number of years. So if the reports were destroyed upon graduation, then yes, there could be a situation where before the reports are given to the Department of Education, a report is destroyed. Or if we had it as a set number of years they're contained, even after a pupil is graduated, then that would not occur because presuming that the schools are required to keep them for a number of years, there would be some annual time when the reports are provided. And so no report would fall through the cracks.
Thank you, Mr. Noss. Okay, so then the amendment that I have written down here is that it would be destroyed upon graduation. Youth Legislator Briganti, do you want to keep that recommendation, or would you like to change that amendment to be a number of years after graduation to provide for that window?
I would like to keep it as when they graduate.
All right. An amendment to destroy the report created by the school upon graduation. What section would that be included in, Mr. Noss?
That would be section 2, subsection 2, paragraph C. As nonpartisan staff, neither advocating for nor opposing any ideas, however, to ensure that you all receive the full spectrum of what could be done. I will also add that this could be crafted to the reports get destroyed upon graduation or after the report is filed with DOE, whichever date is later. So that way reports wouldn't fall through the cracks and they would be generally destroyed upon graduation. Neither advocating for nor opposing that idea, just making sure you all have the full understanding of what we could do to affect your legislative intent.
Thank you for that clarification. I do see the merits of that procedure just so that we are able to effectively use those statistics. And I definitely understand what you're discussing, Youth Legislator Reganti, to ensure that these reports don't exist forever. Is that something the Youth Legislature would be interested in entertaining? I guess more specifically, is that a motion that we would like to move with? Is that an amendment we'd like to move with?
Youth Legislator Allen, for the record, I do think that that is a amendment that we should pursue, considering that I think it benefits both, not both parties, but kind of both ideas. One, the idea that came from Youth Legislator Reganti, in that we shouldn't retain these records any longer after graduation, but then also the concern that some reports might fall through the cracks. So I guess once the report has been filed and graduation has taken place, it would be fair for the file to be destroyed because it has contributed to the statistical purposes of our intentions and of the bill, and then as well as the ethics behind not holding these records of graduated high school students.
All right.
The Senator Weiner again for clarification, if I may, because a little of that confused me a little bit. The intention behind this whole thing about statistics is to ensure that we can create change and the DOE can monitor this. So at the campus level, the data is retained for actively enrolled students. The intention would be that all of that data for each year, whatever the reporting period might be, whatever month it is due, that data that is collected up to that point, the data will be reported to DOE so that it is complete for that campus. If you have a senior who is graduating and there's a gap, there's a little bit of time in there, the senior might have graduated, but the report isn't due till July or August, that data would be retained about that person, but transmitted as part of data, not identity, to the Department of Education. Once the submission of that report has been made, then that individual's information can be destroyed following graduation. It may trail by a couple of months because that report needs to include that information. So they don't happen at the same time. That would be my interpretation, that everybody would be protected and the intention of collecting accurate data and reporting it would be maintained.
Okay, so then would it be fair, and I'm just taking notes here, would it be fair to say an amendment to destroy the report created by the school upon graduation and collection of data by the Department of Education? Would that be a fair summary, Mr. Noss? Or is that
again, Senator Weiner, it's not, I think it would be the reporting of the data to the Department of Education because they aren't necessarily, they're sending it. They're not putting out a fishing net to grab it. It's up to the school to transmit that information. And the key is that all of the data is collected, that they're accurate in numbers and frequency and intensity or whatever they're going to put in that. They need to be assured that that is accurate and complete. And so if they may not be required to transmit the report till maybe August after graduation. I'm making this up, so I go hypothetically. They can retain that data on those graduating seniors, not revealing their identities, but the data that helps in the collective effort to report accurate information to the DOE. Once the report has been transmitted, the information has been released from the school to the DOE, then information that's individual to a graduate can be destroyed. That would be my interpretation. Mr. Noss, is that clear? Does that make legal sense?
David Noss, LCB Legal, for the record. Yes, that does make sense. I would clarify that currently the bill does not require the schools to look through the reports and compile data that is sent. The schools send the reports and DOE looks through them and compiles data on them. If the compiling of the reports into data would prefer to be done at the public school level and then transmitted to the Department of Education, that change can also be made. However, that is not currently what is in this bill.
So again, for clarification, okay, so I now, it's not about the transmission, it's about what DOE does with it. So could there be language, I don't mean to overstep the youth legislature, I apologize, youth legislators. So could it be framed that the DOE would be responsible to destroy information about an individual who has graduated once they've collected the information from the school?
Yes. Neither opposing or advocating for any particular viewpoint. I would assume that a copy of the report would be sent to DOE and not the originals, and so therefore destruction of the reports by DOE and the public school would then be appropriate way to ensure the reports are destroyed.
Youth Legislator McCarthy, for the record, can I ask a clarifying question? It sounds like the reports are sent from the school to DOE as they are. Would it be possible to ask for them to be sent to Department of Education as they are, but with the name of the student redacted, so that then the reports don't have the identifying information, but DOE still gets all the information, and then there's no need for DOE to destroy anything because it's not identifiable information?
Yes, and I apologize. I think I also was focusing on Section 2 too much, and Section 3 does say request data, so the public schools are compiling the data. I apologize. That is certainly my fault. Senator Wiener had it correct the entire time. Sincerest apologies. I was looking at Section 2 and it did not pay enough attention to Section 3. I apologize.
No problem at all. Thank you, Mr. Noss. We appreciate all the help sorting through this. Okay, so it is my understanding then, and I guess my question for both Youth Legislator Reganti and Youth Legislator McCarthy, do we have any amendments for this section of the bill after that discussion?
Youth Legislator McCarthy, for the record, as long as Youth Legislator Reganti agrees with this, I would like to go forward with the amendment suggested by Mr. Noss, which is that the school maintains a report pursuant to paragraph F of subsection 1 until graduation or until the report has been sent to DOE, whichever comes later.
Youth Legislator Reganti, for the record, I agree 100% with that amendment.
All right, thank you. The school upon graduation. And we said, or data collection. Go ahead.
Youth Legislator Allen, for the record, Mr. Noss, would there be a possibility in the language to require a closer date to graduation than in like later months, like August or September? Could we put in the bill that it is required of the policy that it be early reporting in like early July or end of June, depending on when schools host graduation?
Short answer, yes. Longer answer, the graduation date can vary from school to school, and so getting that exact date. Putting a date in statute that works now could not work in the future.
Mr. Noss, Senator Weiner again, and please, youth legislators, forgive me if I keep intervening. To follow the intention behind this inquiry, is it possible then, wanting closer proximity, is it possible to have a timeline following the graduation? Some dates certain that changes isn't certain, but following the graduation date, and it has to be done no later than 60 days beyond graduation or the final day of school, whatever date you use, but that would vary depending upon the school year, but it would be a timeline, not a date certain. Would that address what Youth Legislator Allen is seeking?
Yes, that could be accomplished, and I think, yes, would affect your legislative intent.
Thank you. Go ahead if there's somebody on the mic. All right. So we have 3 amendments, it looks like, just to review. Before we move forward, are there any other amendments or questions or comments at this time from youth legislators?
Youth Legislator McCarthy, for the record. Oh, I'm so sorry. One last question. It's Section 2, Part 1, sorry if I'm using the wrong word. Letter A, an administrator employed at the same school as the witnessing staff member shall ask the pupil if there is an administrator, teacher, or other employee or volunteer of the school that the pupil wishes to contact his or her parent or legal guardian. I remember we added in that the student will be asked if there is another individual they want to be in the meeting with them as someone advocating for them or looking out for them. I'm not sure that it's necessary to have that person be the one who contacts his parents, because that might be a teacher who had nothing to do with the incident, doesn't really know what happened, and is now, because the student likes them, has a relationship with them, asks, can you be the one to call my parent and make a parent-teacher conference, when usually that falls on administrators to set up a parent-teacher conference. So I was wondering if we could, with, support from my fellow youth legislators, change it to just the administrator, and then the staff member that the student requests will of course be in the meeting, but they won't be required to call the parent.
Youth Legislator Riganti, for the record. I like Section A, I might be using that phrasing wrong, that talks about the people getting to choose an employee of the school to contact their legal parent, just because I think that can help give that people peace of mind with how the conversation's going to go between whoever's calling the parent. So, I understand what you're saying, but I think that section is strong.
Youth Legislator Allen, for the record, I agree with Youth Legislator Riganti. I think that there's a general vagueness and kind of important interpretation here that it can be a certified someone who is recognized by the school or by the school district to make that phone call. And the big thing is that it's up to the discretion of the pupil in question. And so I think that if it makes the student more comfortable, then why not? And of course, the student can request it, but what it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, the said staff member can turn that down and it can follow up the chain to somebody else. But I think that provides a important opportunity for students to get the recognition and kind of the support that they need in the way that they best see fit.
Youth Legislator McCarthy, for the record. Obviously, if people disagree, and I respect all of your opinions, and I think that all the points made are important, my only concern is if the teacher didn't see it and didn't know what happened, they're not very informed to explain to the parent what happened, which is fine. That's the purpose of the meeting. The parent would get more information in the meeting, but I guess, yes, if the teacher is able to turn it down, then that might not be a concern. But if the teacher didn't witness it and doesn't know what happened, it's challenging tell them that you need to call this child's parents and say, we have concerns they're on drugs, but you can't explain why.
Thank you, Youth Legislator McCarthy. Youth Legislator Walsh had a comment.
Youth Legislator Walsh, for the record, just for clarification on how this meeting is going to work, are we debating now or are we going to wait till it's actually proposed as an amendment? Because
So there's an
I feel
amendment.
like there's debate going on right now. And
Yeah, the amendment's on the table and we're just discussing the amendment. Yeah, so if you have a comment about the amendment, you are 100% good to provide the comment. Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores, go ahead.
Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores, for the record, I agree with what Youth Legislator McCarthy was saying. I was just hoping that maybe we could include like the teacher that witnessed the student exhibiting behavior on drug abuse could be present with the teacher the student wanted the report to be given by like the phone call. I think that would like kind of like go with both sides and like have the teacher be more informed and also include the witness, if that makes sense.
Youth Legislator Allen, for the record, I just want a quick clarification on the original intention of the bill. Because kind of the original basis was that we were going to create this with the understanding that a teacher that suspected drug use, not necessarily witnessed it, but suspected it, would be able to report this, and the bill would kind of fall under that scope. So is that still the way that the bill is written, or is that changing and it requires witness use of drugs?
Mr. Noss, if you want to go ahead and answer that question, we'd appreciate it.
So witnessing staff member is defined in subsection 4, paragraph C, as a member of the staff of a school who witnesses a pupil exhibiting signs and behavior consistent with substance use or nicotine use.
Thank you. Yep, and it's right, page 6. For those who are looking for it, that's what's defined as witnessing staff member. Go ahead. You have your mic on, Youth Legislator Chang.
Youth Legislator Chang, for the record. So, I was just thinking that so if we say that the witnessing teacher has to be the one that makes the phone call, that could obviously make the student uncomfortable, which would slightly defeat the point of the bill if it's trying to get the students to open up about drug use or to help them with mental challenges. If an administrator makes the call, I don't see how the administrator would be any more informed about the witnessed or supposed witnessed drug use than any other teacher would be, in which case I believe that there's really no downside to having the student choose another teacher or administrator that they feel more comfortable with making the phone call, because at the end of the day, the same information can be relayed to that teacher or that administrator or volunteer, and especially if that makes the student more comfortable, then if that means that they're more open to things, more open to, or more comfortable, at the end of the day, I think that's the goal of the bill.
Youth Legislator Allen, for the record, real quick, I also think, too, kind of going off of what Youth Legislator Chang said, is that we are not having the discussion over the phone. We are simply notifying the parents and or legal guardians of the process in which that will take place and what is required of the school. And so you don't necessarily have to be in the know of what happened or have to be the person that witnessed it, but understanding of the policy, and that's simply what is happening. And so if that's who the pupil wishes, then we should support that, especially because this is a pupil support system-based bill.
Thank you. And just one clarifying question for Mr. Noss, just so everyone's on the same page. And we might have asked this question in the discussion, might have gone on from there. But in terms of the bill, if, say, the member of the youth community asks a teacher, does the teacher have the ability to decline that request?
No. Section 2, subsection 1, paragraph B states the employee or volunteer chosen by the pupil or administrator shall contact the parent or legal guardian. So if the pupil chooses somebody, they shall contact the pupil. If they do not, the administrator shall contact the parent of the pupil to schedule the meeting.
Youth Legislator Reganti, for the record, I think we should add in that they can deny to make the phone call, but I think we should keep in the section of the student making the decision in the first place of who to make the phone call.
All right, thank you. And that'll be our proposed amendment. Is there any, just to ensure we're on the same page, Youth Legislator Reganti, where would be adding in something to bottom of page 3 and paragraph A that would allow the, I think it says here, teacher or other employee or volunteer of the school that the pupil wishes to contact to provide them an ability to deny, or I suppose just not force them to make that contact with the parent or legal guardian. Is that my understanding of the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I think there's that amendment. Do we have any other comments or discussions? Youth Legislator Walsh.
Youth Legislator Walsh for the record. So I agree with the amendment to propose to have the teacher that the student requests deny contacting the parent or guardian, but I would like to propose an amendment removing the part where a student chooses who they would like the staff member that they would like to contact the parent, because now you're putting the teacher in a really tough spot, because if we're considering the student has a good relationship with them. So for example, if I'm abusing drugs and I would like my favorite English teacher to report it to my parent, my English teacher likes me because we have a good relationship, but now I'm putting it in a completely different context. Now I'm making this relationship personal. Now I'm making this relationship something that isn't professional. Now, even if my English teacher likes me, but now you're putting him in a really tough spot. And that's kind of the last thing you want to do. And just like one of the youth legislators said previously, this is just contacting. This isn't having the conversation over the phone. So there really is no use for it besides just an administrator, a neutral party to just contact and notify the parent. If this is just setting up, like scheduling a meeting, like my English teacher has no reason to be scheduling a meeting and a conversation that he might not be a part of. You don't want to put a teacher in a tough spot in general, and you don't want to put the student in a tough spot. They might feel compelled that they have to talk to a teacher that they feel comfortable with. You don't want to jeopardize a relationship that's already very special for an at-risk youth to have on campus. So my proposal is just remove the part where the student asks a teacher to contact. It should just be an administrator or a neutral party. That's possible.
All right. Thank you, Youth Legislator Walsh.
Youth Legislator Allen, for the
And
record,
Go ahead.
just in response to Youth Legislator Walsh, I think that it would be a major breach of ethics if a teacher were to treat a student any differently based off of the call of this meeting, because right now, at the stage where we are just calling the parent or legal guardian, we're not putting any guilt onto the pupil. And at this point, it is suspected use, or I guess going back to the language in witnessing staff. But at this point, there's still room for that conversation. And so I don't necessarily see it as an opportunity for a staff member to treat or to view or to like a student any differently. And I think that it would breach on those ethics completely. I think that the original intent in wanting the pupil to have the choice was that parents can have a very rash or very, angry initial response to this, and that certain adult might be able to respond to that a little bit differently. And I think it's important that we recognize that, especially because not all parents are going to stay informed in what the Nevada Youth Legislature, as well as what the Nevada Legislature is doing. And so they might not be understanding that this is not criminal intent and that this is not persecution of the pupil. It is simply a resource support conversation, resource support program that goes back to a pupil that is using drugs.
Youth Legislator
Youth
Chang.
Legislator, oh, what? Youth Legislator Walsh, for the record, I would like to clarify that my amendment wasn't talking about teachers breaching ethics. It was simply, you said it yourself. This is just a conversation to schedule a meeting. This is the most secretarial conversation that one can have to make it. You also said it again, Youth Legislator Allen. You were talking about how this conversation could be beneficial to parents who might feel a little adversarial upon listening to that their child is being accused of abusing substances, and now that trusted adult could be a good mediator. That should not be a staff member's job at all. Besides a neutral party as administrator, this is just a secretarial conversation to set up a meeting. My motivation for proposing an amendment to remove the student asking it, now you're just layering. This is, like you said, Youth Legislator Allen, this is a pupil-based BDR. Now you're layering more choices, more conversations on the student. The student is already going through something. If they're being suspected of substance abuse, adding them, would you like, this staff member to call your parents? Maybe someone they don't trust. Maybe they don't like their parents. Maybe that's the reason that they're abusing drugs. We don't know. You're adding too many conversations and too many choices for the student to overwhelm them. This, again, is just a secretarial conversation. It is simply contacting the parent saying, hello, this meeting is being set up. That's it. And this also goes to another thing. If you force a teacher to set up this meeting, parents don't answer on the first ring all the time. Maybe they only have one number. Maybe they don't have a number in the system for the school. Parents always don't answer. So now you're forcing this teacher or other staff member to take time out of their day to consistently update this parent that might not show up. That's the reason that I had that. I wasn't bashing teachers on ethics. It was simply a way to make sure that students are the ones that are being focused on the situation. They shouldn't have more overwhelming choice as well.
Okay, we're going to close discussion on that amendment, which was on section 2, paragraph A. All right, I believe, just to review with Mr. Noss, we have currently 4 amendments that we have discussed. The first one that I have here was proposed by Youth Legislator McCarthy, an amendment to section 2, subsection 1, paragraph C, to provide the aforementioned questionnaire to the pupil directly. That's the first one. Is that what you have, Mr. Noss?
Yes, to the pupil instead of to the witnessing staff member and parent or legal guardian.
All right. Senator Weiner, Ms. Ashdown, do we want to go one by one vote, or do we want to just wait? How do we want to go about the voting process with multiple amendments?
Mr. Chair, Chair Rios, do you have kind of a hybrid? You can do a voice vote, and if it's very clear, if not, then you take a roll call. But it might be very clear in a voice vote. But everybody, please be, respond, but be very clear. And if it's not clear, then you'll do a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and do a voice vote. So I'm going to call, let's see here, we'll first motion. All right, so that one was from Youth Legislator McCarthy. Youth Legislator McCarthy has moved that the bill revised to provide the questionnaire directly to the pupil instead of the parent or legal guardian or witnessing adult. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no.
Chair Rios, if I may.
Yes.
We needed a second for the motion.
All right, thank you. Who would like to entertain? I'll entertain a second to the motion from Youth Legislator McCarthy to revise the bill. Thank you, Mr. Noss.
Youth Legislator Walsh, for the record, I second the motion.
Thank you. Legislator Walsh has seconded the motion. We're going to go ahead and do the voice vote again on the first amendment from Youth Legislator Walsh. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed signify by saying no.
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 All right. Could the noes please identify themselves for the record?
Have we frozen down there, up there? Who were the no's, please?
Sorry, Youth Legislator Allen, for the record, we were just getting further clarification. Youth Legislator Allen was one of the no's.
Youth
All right.
Legislator Reganti was one of the other no's.
All right. So I believe the motion passes. All right. So that was the first amendment. The second amendment from Youth Legislator McCarthy, an amendment to include vapor products to the bill's effect under Section 2, subsection 4, paragraph B. Youth Legislator McCarthy has moved that the bill be revised for that purpose. Do I have a second?
I second Youth Legislator Wolf.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Wolf. All right, I'll now entertain a voice vote. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed signify by saying no.
Youth Legislator Walsh, no.
Thank you. And I believe the motion passes. All right. The third amendment from Youth Legislator, and I believe Reganti originally proposed it, and then McCarthy proposed the second version of it. So we'll say, Youth Legislator McCarthy, would you like to motion for that amendment and what I have on my notes? Destruction of the report, of the school report upon graduation or data collection by Department of Education, whichever comes at a later point.
Yes, I motion. Youth Legislator McCarthy.
All right, thank you. Would anyone like to second?
Youth Legislator Chang, for the record, I'd like to second this motion.
Youth Legislator Chan has seconded, and we're going to go ahead and I'll entertain a voice vote. Please signify if you approve of the motion by saying yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed signify by saying no and identify yourselves for the record, please.
Youth Legislator Upsgarten, no.
All right, I believe the motion passes. All right, and then the fourth amendment from Youth Legislator Walsh to remove the section in Section 2, paragraph A, Section 2, subsection 1, paragraph A, that would allow for the member of the youth community to ask for a specific staff member to reach out to the parents or guardian. That would be removed under this amendment, and an administrator of the school would reach out to the parent. I'm going to entertain a voice vote. Those in favor of the amendment signify by saying yes, second to the motion. If I could have a second to that motion, Youth Legislator Walsh has motioned and proposed that revision. Do I have a second?
Youth Legislator Upsgarten, I will second that motion.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Obsgarden. I will entertain a voice vote for that revision. All those in favor of the revision, please signify by saying yes.
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 Yes. All those opposed, please signify by saying no and identify yourselves.
No. Youth Legislator Reganti votes no.
Youth Legislator Allen, for the record, I vote no.
Youth Legislator Chang, for the record, no.
Youth Legislator Rosas, for the record, no.
And I believe is one majority, correct? So I believe the motion passes. All right. And I believe those were the four amendments that I had.
Mr.
Senator
Chair,
Wiener.
it's Senator Wiener, for the record, just for clarification, we did have discussion around so many days following graduation. When we're talking about, was that included in one of those? Would that be integrated into one of the motions, or was that another one that you wanted to consider?
I had that one in, and well, Mr. Nas, under the third amendment in regards to the destruction of the school report, what do we have written under that one? Is that included in that?
David Noss, LCB Legal, for the record. Mr. Chair, I had understood for the destruction of the reports after data collection by ODOE to include a time frame that the department is to receive that data before graduation.
Thank you. Then is that as it was intended?
I'm confused, Mr. Noss. Receiving the data before graduation, but wasn't there a leeway there because of graduation dates that not so much before, but it would be must be by or within or whatever 60 days following graduation or something, because if there's a delay, wasn't there something about that?
That was not my understanding of it, but it sounds like we should take a vote for clarification on what, if that was intended and what exactly the intent was.
All right, thank you. So currently, as we have it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Noss, the amendment that we have included is that the school port will be destroyed upon graduation or data collection by Department of Education, whichever comes later. We can add in a certain window after graduation. I would entertain a motion if anyone would like to propose a revision, unless we think that it is good with that amendment.
I motion to revise the amendment to account for a timeline of 30 days after graduation in which the school must destroy the file as it pertains to the pupil in this bill.
All right, Youth Legislator Allen has proposed an amendment. So it would be something to the effect of the school report would be destroyed upon graduation or 30 days after. Well, it wouldn't be upon graduation, it would be destroyed. Mr. Noss, could you clarify how that would be, how we could describe that amendment?
Yes. My understanding, what I have, is for the report to be destroyed upon graduation or the data collected by the Department of Education. And then in Section 3, for the department to annually request the data 30 days after the graduation date for the school.
All right, we're going to move ahead with that motion then from Youth Legislator Allen to include that portion. Do we have a second?
Youth Legislator Reganti, the record, I second.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Reganti. All right, I will go ahead and administer a voice vote. And so all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying yes.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. And identify yourselves for the record.
So, Youth Legislator Coughlin for the record.
No, Youth Legislator McCarthy for the record.
No, Youth Legislator Wolf for the record.
No, Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores for the record.
No, Youth Legislator Kane for the record.
No, Youth Legislator Park for the record. No, Youth Legislator Obsgarten for the record.
No, Youth Legislator Rios for the record.
No, Vice Chair Cohen for the record.
Right, I believe that is one. Motion does not pass, and so it will remain with the original motion. Is that correct, Senator Wiener?
For clarification, Mr. Noss, that was an amendment to an amendment, and it was the amendment to the amendment that just died, so we go back to the original amendment. Is that correct?
David Noss, LCP Legal for Record. That was my understanding of it, and that would be how that would work.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Okay, so I believe we have gone through all of the proposed amendments to the bill at this point, and we voted on them and decided on those as a youth legislature. Are there any other questions or comments on the bill at this time?
Youth Legislator Chen for the record. I apologize. I just wanted one more clarification on the third amendment that we just reverted back to. So it's to destroy the report, but on the school side or the DOE side?
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Noss.
It is on the school side because, and this was my fault in not properly looking at Section 3 during our conversation earlier, but the department only gets data of the reports. So the reports stay with the school and the reports are being destroyed by the school.
All right, thank you. Is there any other questions, clarifying questions at this time? Seeing none. All right, we are going to go ahead and move on. So the bill draft will be revised with the revisions as follows. And I believe we have to have one more vote to approve the entirety of the bill. Is that correct?
The amendments have been approved individually. Now you have a vote on the bill as on the draft as amended.
All right, thank you. I will entertain a motion to pass the bill draft, the BDR, as amended. Would anyone like to motion?
I motion Youth Legislator McCarthy. I move Youth
Thank-
Legislator McCarthy.
Thank you, Legislator McCarthy. Do I have a second?
I second that motion. Youth Legislator Walsh for the record.
Thank you, Legislator Walsh. All right, when the secretary calls your name, or do we do? All right, we're going to go ahead and have a voice vote on the BDR. Please signify if you approve of the motion by saying yes.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no.
No.
Youth Legislator Allen, for the record, no.
All right, and then if the other no could identify themselves for the record, please. I have Youth Legislator Allen, and then who else?
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Youth Legislator Chang, for the record, no.
Youth Legislator Rosas, no.
All right, but I believe the motion passes. All right, the motion carries. The bill draft has passed and will move forward for introduction into the 2025 legislative session. When our bill is heard during the 2025 legislative session, we will have an opportunity to testify, and I believe that closes our agenda item. All right, next is agenda item 5, which is the selection of a member of the Nevada Youth Legislature to consult with the Nevada Association of Student Councils concerning the nomination of a student member to the State Board of Education. One member appointed to the Nevada State Board of Education is a student enrolled in a public school in Nevada. Although the student member cannot vote, the student attends meetings of the State Board of Education and has the opportunity to participate in and ask questions at these meetings. At its meetings, the State Board of Education makes various decisions about education policy in Nevada. It selects textbooks, creates the standards for state testing programs, determines courses of study, and makes other rules related to education. Therefore, the student member will have an opportunity to present the student perspective to the board during its deliberations. The law requires the student member be appointed by the Nevada Association of Student Councils in consultation with the Nevada Youth Legislature. We do not have any information on the students who will be considered for the nomination. Additionally, since this is our last meeting, we will not meet again before the selection of the nominee. Therefore, it was suggested that we appoint a member to attend that NASC meeting and consult with the NASC on our behalf, either in person or remotely. Would anyone like to volunteer to attend the meeting of the NASC and consult with the NASC regarding the nomination of a student to serve on the State Board of Education?
Hold on, Youth Legislator Obscurn, for the record, just a quick clarification. Does the representative from the Nevada Youth Legislature have to be attending a public school, or is it merely the person who will end up being appointed?
I believe, Ms. Ashdown?
The person who is appointed to the board, the student member of the Board of Education, it has to go attend a public school. Our designee does not need to be a public school, does not need to attend a public school.
Thank you. All right. Would anyone like to volunteer?
Youth
Youth
Legislator.
Legislator Obscurn.
Sorry. Youth Legislator
I heard-
Reganti.
Go ahead. All right. Reganti. Anyone else?
Youth Legislator Obscurn, for the record, I'll volunteer.
Anyone else interested in volunteering at this time for that position? All right. Since we have more than one volunteer, we will vote on who should be appointed to represent the Youth Legislature at the NASC meeting. Before taking the vote, let's hear from the candidates about why they would like to serve in this capacity. Youth Legislator Reganti, if you'd like to go first, and then Youth Legislator Obscard can provide remarks. And then we'll add 1 minute maximum, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'll keep this short. Youth representation is obviously very important when it comes to education, especially in the state of Nevada, and I want to make sure that the person we're selecting can properly represent our state of Nevada and can properly advocate for what students need and what they want. And I believe that I would be good at doing that considering prior experience. I've worked in student government, I've been captain of mock trial team, speech and debate team, and I'm on the state board for Nevada Junior Classical League, and I've worked with selecting students for certain roles. And so I think my past experience and my interest in the subject would make me the best candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Reganti. Youth Legislator Opsgarden.
Okay, Youth Legislator Upscotton for the record. I just want to say again, I'll keep it short. I have a lot of experience working with students in public schools, even though I don't attend a public school myself. And I additionally have just a lot of experience with this sort of thing in general. I've done a lot of research on this subject. My BDR itself was in reference to the public education system and trying to amend it for the better. And so just with the general experience I have across this level, I feel like just the commitment I would bring to making sure that we have a reasonable voice in shaping the future of our public education system would. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Opsgarden. All right. Ms. McManus, if we could please take a vote to decide who our NASC representative would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Ms. McManus, hold on. So as our secretary calls, name the candidate you would like, the representative you would like to see take the voice of the NYL to this recommendation. That's what you will be sharing when she calls your name.
Thank you. Senator Wiener, and if you could go ahead and please go ahead with the vote, Ms. McManus. Thank you.
Youth Legislator Allen.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Youth Legislator Alvarez Flores.
Youth Legislator Opsgarden.
Youth Legislator Kane.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Youth Legislator Chang.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Youth Legislator Chen.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Vice Chair Cohen.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Youth Legislator Coughlin.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Youth Legislator McCarthy.
Youth Legislator Opsgarden.
Youth Legislator Wen.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Youth Legislator Opsgarden.
Youth Legislator Upscotton.
Youth Legislator Park.
Youth Legislator Opsgarden.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Chair Rios.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Youth Legislator Rosas.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Youth Legislator Walsh.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
Youth Legislator Wolf.
Youth Legislator Reganti.
All right, I believe Youth Legislator Reganti is appointed. I believe Youth Legislator Reganti is appointed to consult with the NASC on behalf of the Youth Legislature, and that will close that agenda item. All right, moving on to agenda item 6. That's correct. Since Youth Legislator Reganti will be consulting with the NASC on our behalf, we should provide some guidance on the qualities we consider most important in selecting a nominee. For instance, do we want to emphasize leadership experience, academic achievements, or something else? I will now open the meeting up for discussion on that point.
And Mr. Chair, due to time, if we could limit this to 3 to 4 minutes because we're running behind.
Thank you, Senator Wiener. All right, any discussion at this time or comments?
Youth Legislator Allen, for the record, I'll keep this quick. I would just encourage my colleague to make the wisest decisions and kind of consider experience, but also consider their passions and working closely with the NASC in previous years. It's a very diverse board and consider what they bring, the contributions that they bring to this board, as well as to the Nevada State Board of Education, and truly try to consider what our diverse board a diverse youth legislature brings to the table as we kind of look forward and look at who our nominations are.
Thank you, Youth Legislator Allen. Any other discussion at this time? I would also comment as well, Youth Legislator Briganti. When going into those settings, I think understanding student relevancy in the educational environment is very important. It's something that, having served with, and I know you've served as well in the Northern Nevada capacity on the Commission on Innovation and Excellence in Education, it's something that student relevancy, what youth gain from education and their understanding of why they're in that classroom on Monday morning at 8 a.m. is very important. So I would also ask that you consider that in your recommendations. All right. Any other discussion at this time? If not, then we're going to go ahead and move forward. And so thank you. I hope this discussion has been helpful to Youth Legislator Briganti in highlighting some of the qualities to look for in the nominee for the student member of the Board of Education. Since we have no other items to discuss, we will move to the next period of public comment. I will now open the second period of public comment. The same rules mentioned during the first period of public comment apply. Please try to avoid repeating testimony if someone has already made your point, and each person will be asked to limit testimony to 3 minutes. Is there anyone wishing to testify in Las Vegas? Seeing none, is there anyone wishing to testify in Carson City? Seeing none, AVHU, is there anyone on the line to make public comment?
Thank you, Chair. The public lines are open and working. However, there are no callers to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you. It appears we don't have anyone who is prepared to provide public comment at this time, so we will move on to the next portion of the meeting. We're now ready to adjourn. Do any members have any final thoughts or comments before adjourning? Right, seeing none. Thank you for all of your participation today in discussion. And now that we do have our youth legislature bill, hopefully we can look forward to advocating it in the legislative session. This concludes our business for today. This meeting is now adjourned. We will continue to our training as soon as the audio, visual, and hearings unit is ready to proceed.